On September 21st, 2022, Netflix premiered their newest show, Dahmer Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. The show stirred up much controversy for, obviously, being a 10-episode series about the real-life serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer, but mainly some family members of the victims spoke out, claiming the series was re-traumatizing and capitalizes on others' tragedy without involving them in the project. Not to mention, it was around the time that the whole serial killer stan accounts began popping up. Typical TikTok. And from what I've heard, Jeffrey's father did not take too kindly to the series, stating he did not want his son being idolized like this. But among all the controversy and buzz around the series, one piece of Jeffrey Dahmer history was buried underneath it all. One forgotten 2002 film that I have never seen anybody talk about. Until recently, I uncovered this film and unburied it. From the $5 bin at Walmart. The film is simply titled Dahmer. Pretty unfortunate considering the 2022 series is also titled Dahmer, so that could explain why no one knows of it. All searches must be going to the Netflix series. Now, I think it's important for me to point out that I have not seen the 2022 Netflix series, so I'm solely basing my knowledge of the Dahmer lore off of the 2002 film, so bear with me. Right off the bat, you would notice that the film has a pretty different tone compared to what I've seen from the show. The movie follows Jeffrey Dahmer, who works at a chocolate factory and overall seems like a regular, nerdy, awkward guy. His first victim he meets in a clothes shop, spectating as he sees the guy looking at some shoes. He approaches him and offers to buy him said shoes in exchange for some pictures of him. And this is where one of my biggest gripes comes in: the writing and acting. Now, don't get me wrong, Dahmer has some pretty good acting, Jeremy Renner obviously being the shining star, but everyone else is a bit strange. I get what they were going for, awkward acting in an awkward situation, but at some points the acting is so awkward it begins feeling like a weird skit or a parody made by some college film students. Although on a more positive note, this film has one of the best crying scenes I've watched in a long time. No single tear nonsense, just full-on ugly crying. One of my favorite parts about the movie is how it's able to create tension with some of the most ordinary of scenes, like the scene where Jeffrey's father is badgering him about opening the box he found in Jeffrey's closet, and while the scene goes on and on with him, his dad, and his grandma arguing, I really felt the tension build and it kept me wondering what was in that box. And although you kinda know what's in that box if you know the full extent of the Dahmer story, it still kinda catches you off guard when you actually see it. And it kinda makes you wonder how the scene would have played out had the dad and the grandma opened the box.
Jeffrey, open the box or I'm gonna take it downstairs and pry it open.
You do what you want, son. Leave.
And sometimes it seems like the actors are desperately trying to hold in their laughter. Yeah, the acting ranges from pretty great to questionable. Now, being that the movie is based on true events, you'd expect it to be pretty accurate to the, true events, right? Well, not really. The movie really tends to gloss over details that true fans of the case will surely notice. The Temple of Skulls diagram, barrels of acid, the freezer full of human heads, the beheaded geese, and even the cannibalism aspect of the story was left out, which was one of the most important parts of the case. Hell, he was even known as the Milwaukee Cannibal. The movie even has the audacity to end with a black screen displaying text explaining how Jeffrey was caught by police and was later killed in his cellmate by another cellmate 2 years into serving his prison sentence. The movie just ends so abruptly. You're left wondering if there's gonna be some post-credit scene, but no. It ends on such a low note it completely ruined the entire thing for me. Even the kills in the movie either happened off-screen or were severely downplayed, such as the opening drill scene or the cutting of a body in a later scene. And the final kill has a practical effect that is so laughably bad I can't even believe they went with it. I mean, the movie kind of works well with what it has, but it has so much missing and could have been a lot bigger and grander. I will say that the movie is pretty well shot, and the mostly dark yellow colors make the movie feel damp, sweaty, and dirty. I noticed that the 2022 Dahmer series used similar colors for Jeff's apartment, and while the movie uses a lot of broad daylight settings, I think it actually helps add to the creepiness of all these events happening in broad daylight. One notable scene is when Dahmer kills Stephen Hicks in his grandma's home, and being that it is his very first kill, you can feel the fear and tension he feels after realizing what he's just done, and the anguish and guilt that ensues later on. Anyways, back to the lack of important events. You could argue that it could have been due to the film budget, but mind you that this disaster had a budget of $250,000, which is well over the average of an independent film. Aberrant Violence, my ass. Hell, Irreversible came out the same year, and that movie has one of the most gut-wrenching scenes in any movie I've ever seen, using little to no blood. The movie also has a problem with storytelling and consistency. You're sitting there casually watching the film, and all of a sudden it would jump to a totally different scene, or it would jump back to a flashback when Jeff was a kid, and without any warning or transition, it can really feel off-putting and strange. One scene in particular is when Jeff is standing outside the bar, and then all of a sudden it cuts to a shot of him standing on the other side of the street, and I legit thought it was a different character that Jeff was staring at from across the street, but nope, it was him. The movie does a lot of weird, disorienting transitions and flashbacks that mess with the flow of the movie. It's great that you're showing me flashbacks to give me more of a backstory into Jeffrey's life, but you could break it down into two segments so that you don't confuse the viewer. One half could be the flashback, and the second half could be the present events. Overall, while the movie is decent, it lacks a lot of what probably made the 2022 series more interesting. And as someone who knows quite a bit about the case myself, I noted a lot of what was missing. Dahmer is good if you want to quickly digest half of the Dahmer story in under 2 minutes. Yes, a measly runtime of 1 hour and 42 minutes. Good movie for when you're bored, not so good if you want to study the case of Dahmer. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a nice day. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.